when she walked through that door. The most beautiful girl I'd ever seen before. Sea green eyes and long blonde hair, cool smooth smile and didn't have care. I don't know why, but she walked my way. I was scared to death, but I was ready to play. Love at first sight sets the spirit free. I felt the dark clouds part, I heard the angels sing. My heart caught fire and my soul can fly. That's when I knew I had to make her mine. Today. Hello, everybody. How you been? It's been a minute. Hi, everybody. My name is Mickey, and this is Mickey in the Middle, the quintessential show for Middle Americans, where all Middle Americans are welcome. It doesn't matter where you've been, doesn't matter where you're going, just matters that you're here right now with me. Now, when I say Mickey in the Middle, I'm not talking about the left and the right. I have my own ideas about politics, and sometimes we get into that, but I'm talking about what it takes to be a Middle American. Now, being a Middle American is a special type of privilege. That means that you are living in America and you're living a middle-class life. You're not too rich, you're not too poor. You're just kind of like living your best life. And this show is about the politics of living in the middle and what is the best policies that we have. So we don't listen to the 20% of the crazies on the left. We don't listen to the 20% of the crazies on the right. We just listen for good ideas that we can spread around in the middle, kind of like peanut butter on a slice of bread. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to come up with the best policies for Middle Americans. Now, the name of the show tonight is Let's Try Socialism. Now, why not? Why wouldn't we want to try socialism? Well, I mean, other than the fact that it's been tried a whole bunch of other times before and it never worked, and that crazy people always took over the government, and that it always turned into a dictatorship, and then it always turned into communism. They want to try this new thing called democratic socialism. So I'm like, okay, let's do a thought experiment on how exactly would that work? Because I'm trying to wrap my arms around the idea of democratic socialism where we vote for socialism. And we have all of us get on the same page, although we've never been on the same page. Since the beginning of our constitutional republic, we've never been on the same page. But we've always had people that are one way or the other. We've had people that are on the left. We've had people on the right. We've had the Green Party. We've had the Libertarians. We've had everybody disagrees. But let's just say that socialism is going to bring us all together. Because why wouldn't socialism bring us all together? Right? So that's what the word social means. Togetherness. It's like being social. I'm your neighbor. You're my neighbor. We're being social with each other. It's all about relationships. It's all about love for thy neighbor. It's written in the Bible somewhere like that. Here's the idea. The general idea is that collectively, we all own the means of production and distribution. Doesn't that sound absolutely lovely? It does sound lovely. I mean, listen, I would love for everybody to have a house. I would love for everybody to have a car. I would love for everybody to have food. I'd love for everybody to have their hospital bills paid. I would love for all of the stuff that they're talking about. Now, the democratic socialists that are in America today, they have a website. You can go over there. I don't know what the heck it is, but you can go find them. And they're a little bit crazy. So we're not going to talk about the democratic socialists, all right? So on the democratic socialist webpage, it says, we're going to get rid of the presidency of the United States. So we're not going to have a leader. Although it's in the Constitution, Article 2, we're not going to have a president. And we're going to get rid of the Senate, which means that we're going to get rid of half of Article 1. So Article 1 is the legislature, right? So Article 1, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in the Congress, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. So the Senate is listed first, the House is listed second, but we're going to get rid of the upper chamber before you can do that. And then, of course, we're going to get rid of the presidency, which is Article 2, because who needs to have an executive? Who needs to have an administrative portion of the branch or of the government to run things? So Article 2 says the executive power, which means the organization that does everything, that actually executes the legislation in from the legislature in Article 1. The executive power shall be vested in the President of the United States of America. He shall hold the office during a term of 4 years, and together with the Vice President chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. So they want to get rid of the president. They want to get rid of prisons, so you're not allowed to send any bad people away. And they want to get rid of the police department, so you can't even catch the bad people. And then even if you did catch the bad people, you can't put them anywhere. So they want to get rid of the prisons. They want to get rid of the police. They want to get rid of the presidency, and they want to get rid of the Senate. Let's not talk about them. All right. Let's talk about socialism and how socialism would work here. Now, the reason I bring this up is because when I was on my way to Massachusetts for the 4th of July, I had a lot of time to think. And what I did was I transcribed some things into my phone. So I just turn on my phone and I'd hit the little record button and I would say, I can't do it right now because it's listening to me. But I would say SIRI, make a note, and it would say, what do you want a note to say? And I would blather. And there's no limit to how long you can make a note because they have done an incredible job text. So that's what I'm talking about right here. So voice to text. And it starts off, Democratic socialism, how is it supposed to work? Because through my ramblings, I realized that I came up with some really, really good, because I would like it to work. I would like everybody to live in a mansion. I would like everybody to live in a mansion, 5,000 square feet. With that, I want everybody to drive the nicest cars, not cars. I want everybody to drive a great electric or gas guzzling car, whatever they choose. I would love people to have a big house and a big car. I would love people to be able to order groceries and have groceries delivered into their house in unlimited quantities for absolutely free. If you want to order, let's say, 50 pounds of grapes, those 50 pounds of grapes would be delivered to your house and you would be able to eat them like the Roman emperors did back in the day, where they had slaves dropping fruit, dropping the grapes into their mouths. What else would I like? I would like to have every sniffle that you had, a doctor would come to your house and take care of you. Doesn't that sound great? Doesn't that sound great, where you don't have to do anything? Just people show up at your house and they take care of you. And wellness, everybody can have gyms. Everybody can go to the beach unlimited amount of times and max out vacations. Let's try this, because that's what they're promising. That's what socialism promises. Socialism basically promises, hey, we're all in this together. If we all work a little bit and throw everything in the same pot, then we can all draw from the pot. Well, so here's what some of the inherent problems with the concept of that. We know that there are lazy people out there. And we know that there are very motivated people out there. So how do we take all the motivated people motivated and keep all the lazy people motivated enough to actually pitch in and work? Because it's been proven time and time again that if you give a lazy person money, they're not going to work. If you give a motivated person no motivation to be inspired and to work harder, they will work less. So we have to get the lazy people to work and the motivated people to not come down too little. But my question is, how is it supposed to work? First of all, the government has to take over businesses. Now, the first thing that you have to ask yourself is, how in the hell did these businesses come to exist to begin with? Because it's not that simple. Businesses just don't occur. Businesses, you got to remember, we were all dirt poor at one time. But people are innovators. We want to come up with new things, and we want to come up with new ways of doing things, easier ways. That's why we got the wheel, because we're like tired of carrying stuff. So we're like, hey man, we need a wheel. Well, a wheel by itself is not going to do much good, but let's have it. Let's put it on a wagon. Okay, so we got to invent a wagon. We got to invent a wheel. Does everybody get those instantaneously, or does somebody have to make them? And if somebody has to make them, how in the hell does the person that's making them get compensated so that they will continue to make them? See, there's no incentive to make a wheel and a wagon for everybody if you just have to slave away and you become a slave to the system. Somebody goes, hey, you got to make this. So that's how the origination of cars came about, right? We had wagons, and then somebody went, hey, you know what? If we get rid of the horses, we can put a motor on this, and then we can do that. And then somebody went, hey, look here, I need to make them for everybody. So the weird thing is about that, as soon as you invent something, everybody wants it. Well, how do you properly distribute that? Because the government right now with the socialists thinks that, hey, all of this stuff comes from nowhere. It just magically appears. And they go, oh, no, 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 no. No, people are already making cars. Well, right. But where did the factory come from that built that? Somebody had to collect enough capital and build a factory so that somebody could make the cars. It's a crazy process the way that it works, but it happens all over every single town in the United States of America. So like you want to make things like cupcakes. Well, you can make cupcakes. Does that mean that you're supposed to make cupcakes for everybody in the world? Or how does that work? How do you go, hey, look here, I can only make 100 cupcakes a day. Well, who gets 100 cupcakes a day? Because there's 350 million people in the United States of America. Do you take the person's cupcakes that are doing that and then not compensate them? Oh, no, they'll be compensated in other ways. What's the other way? Well, they'll get a house out of the deal. What if they don't want a house? What if they don't want a car? What if they just want to make cupcakes? And then from the profit of that, spend it on whatever the hell they want to. So I'm not really sure how the government can take over production of things. So I'm going to go back to some of my notes. If somebody, I'm not sure how the government can take over production of things. Oh no, I hit the record button. If you think about cars, for example, Ford and Chevy have made it. All of the other a bunch of other car companies have gone out of business, like Pontiac. There's no way that they could keep up. They did crappy cars. Could you imagine if a government bureaucrat went in and took over Ford or Chevy or Mercedes or Kia or Hyundai? How long would it take government officials to run the companies into the ground because they have no idea what they're talking about? Well, let me tell you, it takes about 10 years. You know how I know about that? Because that's how long it took Venezuela to go from one of the richest countries in South America to a total dumpster fire. So it was proven. So what happened was they voted for a socialist down there, and Maduro took over. And Maduro went around and went, we're going to make that company. We're going to take that company. We're going to make it for the people. We're going to take that company, make it for the people. We're going to take all of the oil fields, and we're going to take the richest oil fields in South America, and we're going to give them to the people. Now, Maduro kept the majority of the money, but all the people that were running the oil companies and the oil fields and everything like that were like, hey, man, you just took our jobs. You took our good paying jobs. We were working hard. We were making the oil system work, and you took our jobs. So what we're going to do is we're just going to leave. And we're going to go back to the United States. We're going to go back to what's that, the Middle East, or we're going to go back to Europe, or we're going to go to other places. We're going to find other things to do. And Maduro said, hey, look here, man. All of the engineers, all of the smart people, all the business people that were making the oil company work, we don't need you. So we're going to hire our own smart people in the government to go run these companies. And then the company profits are going to go to the people of Venezuela. And everybody cheered. Yay! We're cheering because Venezuela now owns the oil field, and all the profits from the oil field are supposed to go to the people. However, it came less than a year. The oil started drying up because those people had no idea what they were doing. And when stuff broke, they had no idea how to fix it. And then when market forces forced them to finance some other things, they were like, well, we don't have the money to refinance all the stuff. We can't keep the oil flowing. So the oil slowly drip, 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 stopped flowing out of Venezuela. And then guess what happened? They didn't have anything because when they took over the car companies, they took over the electrical grids, when they took over the production of food, the same thing happened every single time when the government got involved. I want you to think of how your government operates now. How good are all the programs that your government has? Other than the police, the fire department, and the military, have you ever dealt with anybody else in the government? Now, we got some fine people in the government. We got some great people in the government. And I'm not saying they don't try to do a good job, but over time, the bureaucracy takes over every single government function and turns it into a total shit show. You know it. I know it. What do we get out of the government? What does the government produce that you want more of? Do you want more traffic rules? Do you want more rules and regulations? Do you want to make it harder to get food, harder to make chemicals, harder to start a business, harder to do your taxes? Because that's what the government does. They make commerce harder. They make trade harder. They make everything harder. And they don't produce anything. They just get in the way because all the dumb people that I want to be careful when I say here. All of the people that do not have the experience in the businesses that they're running in order to produce a profit, because the government is a nonprofit entity, they don't have the ability to deliver at scale for the proper cost. I will say that again. The government does not have the ability to produce at scale for a lower cost. And I need you to know that because I would really like socialism to work. But you have to ask yourself the question about housing. How does that work if the government gives everybody housing? Now, you can't stay in your house. They've got to take your house. I don't care whether it's 1,000 feet, 500 feet, 2,000 feet, 3,500 feet, 5,000 feet. It doesn't matter because if everybody's going to be treated equal and everybody's going to get the same housing, everybody has. Have you seen government housing? Have you seen Section 8? Have you seen when people that don't care live in a place? Well, when people are not physically, emotionally, and monetarily invested in a property, why would they ever take care of it? And that's what the question is with socialism. I would love it for everybody to get an apartment and everybody, oh yeah, apartment. Nobody gets a yard. Nobody gets a yard. You can't have a yard. The government doesn't provide yards. What the government's going to provide is going to provide, 700 square feet for every human being? No, let's go with 500 feet. That's 5 by 50. That's 10 by 50. Yeah, 10 by 50. That's 500 square feet per person. So if you do 500 square feet per person, if you have three, that's a 1,500 foot house. If you have Four people, that's a 2,000 square foot house. Well, the mathematics doesn't work out like that, does it? It doesn't. Does everybody get one of these places as soon as you turn 18? And then how do you change places whenever you get married or whenever you have kids? How does that work? Do you think the government will be smart enough to figure out how to get you a place to live or how to get your kids a place to live? And how does a food distribution thing go? Not everybody eats the same thing. That's why we have such variety. So the problem is when the government gets involved with stuff, they go, "Hey, everybody gets a hamburger. Everybody gets hamburgers." Right? Well, how many varieties of hamburgers do you think there's going to be if the government gets involved? I need to ask this question because I'm totally serious about this. Because the government's going to make a hamburger and it's going to be a hamburger. Now, you might not like that hamburger, but the government's not going to have any competition because the government's going to control your hamburgers. So, who's going to come up with a secondary hamburger for the thing? So, you remember when McDonald's kicked off? Burger King said, "I can do it better than that." And then Burger King's popped up. Now you had two choices. Now McDonald's and Burger King were on the same corner, but now they have to fight for your dollar. That means they're going to have to give you better food at a cheaper price. And then Wendy's popped up, and Whataburgers, and Five Guys, and all these other specialty shops. As a matter of fact, you probably have somebody that's local in your area that can compete against McDonald's and do a better job than McDonald's does, or do a better job. Like around here, we have David's. They make the best burgers. They make the great fries. They give you a little ice cream at the end of the meal. Would David's pop up if we were socialists? No, because the government controls hamburgers. So the hamburger is going to be the same hamburger. There's not going to be a David's. There's not going to be a Five Guys. There's not going to be an In-N-Out burger. There's not going to be a Whataburger. There's not going to be Shakey's. There's not going to be. How many different kind of pizzas do you think you're going to get? You're not. Because the government is not good at innovating. They're not going to give everybody a 3,000 square foot house and a doggone Corvette. And then when you need to drive your entire family somewhere, they're not going to go, "Oh, you know what? You need a minivan. Here's a minivan." I don't understand how people that want socialism cannot explain how socialism was going to work. Because you have to go and get the stuff from somewhere to give to other people. Do you think that NASA was doing a good job before Elon Musk got there? We had a space program that went to the moon. We were first people on the moon. We did not beat Russia to space, but we beat them to the moon. They've never been to the moon. Nobody else except Americans have been to the moon. So all of those countries, China and Soviet Union and Germany and France and Spain and Portugal and Japan and China, they can all talk shit, but they haven't been to the moon. They have not landed a human being on the moon, brought them back. And that was great that we did that. And then NASA went to hell in a handbasket. And then they're like, "Oh, we still got to continue space." So they brought the space shuttle. They spent a lot of money on space shuttles, and they did a great job for a while. But they didn't control the money. They didn't control that. There was no competition. There was no reason for them to get better. So they forgot to build the next thing to get us to space because they had no competition. That's what happens in every government enterprise, is they have no incentive to get better, and they don't see the next thing coming. They don't have a reason to be innovative and creative or keep costs down. They have no incentive to do that. So they spend as much money as they want to, and they never have to get better. It's the same thing it's going to be with cars and with housing and with healthcare. Who's going to get into healthcare if you can't go and get good paying jobs in healthcare? Because if you're a doctor or you are a candle maker, your money is the same. They don't differentiate in socialism by class. Everybody gets the same thing. That's the problem with socialism. They're like, "Oh yeah, we're going to grab the means of production of the hospital system." All right, now the government owns the hospital system. Now they control the doctors and the nurses and the med techs and the phlebotomists and the x-rays and the urologists and the nephrologists and the pediologists, the foot doctors, whatever the heck the foot doctors are. And therein lies the problem. The government controls all that stuff. They'd have no incentive to be good. Why would they be good for you? Well, the only reason that they're good for you now in countries that are not like the United States innovates for the entire world. They do MRIs, they do cardiology, they do all of this stuff, and then they spread it to the rest of the world. Because for-profit hospitals and for-profit colleges and universities make enough money so that they can do research, so they can find the next thing. They find the next thing, they patent the next thing, and then they sell it to the rest of the world. So the rest of the world, we're dragging by ball and chain. What's the greatest thing that's come out of Canada? They got socialized healthcare up there. What's the greatest thing that's come out of Britain? Right? All of these countries that have all of this socialized health care, what's the great things that come out of there? They haven't done shit. What's the great innovation out of China? China's finally, because they've embraced free market ideas in China in order to promote their country, although they are very, 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 very communist, they have embraced free market ideas and education in their country in order to make their entire country better. But where's the innovation coming out of there? Where is the help for everything other than manufacturing shit that the United States designs and makes? Well, that didn't happen until they introduced free market capital into China. And that was from Hong Kong, and only after the year 1999, when Great Britain gave Hong Kong back to China after a 100-year deal. And then China went, hey, we're shutting down Hong Kong. You can't be free anymore. Hong Kong took a nosedive. And then China went, holy smokes, we're killing the golden calf. Oh, excuse me, not the golden calf, the golden goose. We're killing the golden goose. So they killed Hong Kong. So that's all I want to ask. I just want to ask how socialism is supposed to work. Because I can't see a way that we innovate or that the government can properly address production and distribution for 350 million Americans. I just can't see how it's done. So I would like everybody to comment on here and please tell me how socialism works. I don't want to hear grandiose ideas. I don't want to hear grandiose concepts. I don't want to hear healthcare for everyone, food for everyone, housing for everyone. So everyone sounds like a great idea. But why am I responsible for producing and making money for a government who's going to give it to people that I don't know for reasons that I don't know in order to make their life better and make my life worse? That is the basic crux of socialism. You make my life worse in order to make somebody else's life better. And I understand trying to make other people's life better. God, I get that. God, believe me, I do not drive. You can ask anybody that's ever in a car with me. I do not drive by anybody that's on the side of the road looking for $1 or $2. I always stop and give them $1 or $2. It's a curse I have because I feel bad for people. I have empathy. I have sympathy. God, I want everybody to do well. But I can't take care of the world. And they're like, socialism is like, we're going to take care of the world. The only problem is the people that are saying that don't have the ability to do it because they're incompetent and they don't understand how things work. They don't understand incentives. They don't understand cutting costs. They don't understand where shit comes from. They don't understand how to properly distribute things. And they can never answer these questions without, well, we just need to do this. Stop. If you could come up with an idea to make socialism work, I would love to hear it. Seriously, I would love to try it. The Democrat Socialists of America, they just need to go away. They're stupid. They're, I'll say it, retarded. They don't have the intellectual capacity to tell me how getting rid of the police is going to help us out. Because here's the deal is, I know some people that would be criminals if we didn't have the police. And get rid of prisons? Yeah, we don't need prisons. Everybody's reformable. No, I know a bunch of people that are not reformable. We need to get rid of the presidency. Yeah, we don't need to have anybody. We don't need to have one person in charge of an organization that literally organizes how the country negotiates internationally, how it handles commerce internationally, handles interstate freeways internationally. Look, they don't do a great job. They don't do a great job. And that's why this Constitution of the United States limits the federal government. The Constitution of the United States limits the federal government because they understand that the 50 states and the counties and the cities need to make decisions for themselves. If you have one big party at the top making all of the decisions for everybody, it takes the power out of the state's hands, out of the county hands, out of your city's hands. This is an important part for you to understand. Do you want a city, county, state to take care of you and to take care of your little part of the world so you have a voice, so that you can run for local office, so that you can run for county office, or you can run in your state? Do you want to be able to have a voice where you can call the city council people and the mayor of a town of 30,000 people and have influence over the decisions that are made in that little city? Or in a county of, I don't know, 80 or 90,000 people? Or do you want, or, I think I'm still on. Or do you want to have an overpowering socialistic government that makes all of the decisions for all of everybody? That's not the purpose of this. This says the federal government should be limited. And Article 10, Amendment 10 of the Constitution says, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. This document gives you power. You got to know what's in it. You got to live by it. And it's 3 parts of government. Article 1 is the legislation. Article 2 is the presidency. Article 3 is the judiciary. And you need to understand that socialism does not work and is not compatible with your freedom. Your freedom is important. This document protects you because your freedom means that socialists want to tell you what to do, and socialists want to take your stuff and give it to other people, or take their stuff and give it to you. How would you feel if they started taking a bunch of people's stuff and just giving it to you? You didn't earn it. You know it's wrong. What would that do to your soul? And with that, I'm out. All right. Hey, look, everybody. This is Mickey in the Middle, the quintessential show for Middle Americans, where all Middle Americans are welcome. It does not matter where you've been or where you go. It just matters that you're here right now. Remember to like, share, hit the notification bell. My name is Mickey. I'll see you most Wednesdays right here.
Love at first first sight when she walked through that door. The most beautiful girl I'd ever seen before. Sea green eyes and long blonde hair, cool smooth smile and didn't have care. I don't know why, but she walked my way. I was scared to death, but I was ready to play. Love at first sight sets the spirit free. I felt the dark clouds part, I heard the angels sing. My heart caught fire and my soul can fly. That's when I knew I had to make her mine.